Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to the APKIC seminar on digital trust interoperability. Established in 2001, the Asia PKI Consortium boasts members from 10 Asian Oceanian countries. It plays a pivotal role in facilitating secure digital transformation. The consortium is actively engaged in promoting PKI technology adoption and awareness across its member economies, with the objective of fostering interoperability among PKIs in the Asia-Oceania region to activate network services utilizing PKIs. Today's workshop, spearheaded by the Business Application Working Group of APKIC, will focus on the evolving landscape of digital trust and its relationship with PKI, addressing key aspects of interoperability for future development. We are privileged to have esteemed hosts and speakers joining us today, Mr. Vijay Kumar and Ms. Karen Zhang, co-chairs of Business Application Working Group of APKIC, Mr. Tolis Abladas, IT Transformation Leader of the European Commission, Mr. Vincente Andreu Navarro, Policy Officer of the European Commission, Mr. Daniel Liang, General Manager of Global Operation of TCIC, and Professor Satoru Tezuka from the Faculty of Environment and Information Studies at Keio University, Mr. Dejas Dagat, Director of Asia, Middle East, and Africa of Nexus Group, and the last one, Mr. Clement Xie, Senior Manager of ITRI. And now, let's welcome Karen to give us a warm welcome remarks as well. Karen is the co-chair of Business Application Working Group of APKIC, the chair of FIDO Regional Engagement Forum of FIDO Alliance. Let's welcome Karen.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to 2024 APKIC workshop. It's Digital Trust Interoperability. I'm Karen Zhang of eIDAS Technology, also co-chair of BAWG, Business Case and Application Working Group of APKIC. It's really my honor to be here to welcome all of you from the world to joining us for this wonderful seminar. Today, we have the wonderful agenda with great speakers. They are from EU, Canada, Japan, India, and also Taiwan. There are e-signature, mutual recognition, and digital identity wallet of EU, and the performance in between. And also we have the showcases from Japan and India. At the last session, we will have Mr. Clement Xie to give us the digital trust development. So at last, but it's the most important, is we have our another co-chair, Mr. Kumar, Vijay Kumar, to give us the wrap-ups for all workshop, to give us the wonderful and valuable wrap-ups. And I sincerely welcome all of you, and hopefully you will enjoy the seminar today. Have fun and learn something. Thank you so much. And next, yes.
Thank you so much, Karen. And then we are honored to have Mr. Srinivasan, the chair of APKIC, with us online to deliver his opening remarks. Mr. Srinivasan is the executive chairman of eMura and has been a director of the company since incorporation in 2008. Mr. Srinivasan has prepared a video message for us, which we will now watch together.
Good day to all of you. At the outset, I welcome all of you to this seminar on digital trust interoperability. The seminar is brought out by the Business Application Working Group of Asia PKI Consortium. This working group is chaired by Karen Chang, and she has organized this event. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking your time out to attend this seminar. The digital trust interoperability is a very important concept. So with the borderless trade and global trade happening and global e-commerce, digital trust interoperability has assumed much more significance. Initially, each country wanted to ensure interoperability within their trust service providers. So they provided many rules, regulations, so that interoperability within the trust service ecosystem within each country could be ensured. But now it has become necessary to ensure digital trust interoperability across many countries. So towards this initiative, if you see European Union, they have brought eIDAS regulations and EU digital wallet. So these are all will enable us to make digital trust interoperability across Europe. Similarly, European Union has signed an agreement with Japan to ensure digital trust interoperability between EU and Japan. EU, Japan, and India, they are also doing a pilot on digital trust interoperability. So that way, many countries are working on this. On this important topic, today, several speakers are going to speak about this topic and about the related aspects of this topic. So let us listen to the speakers and understand about this important topic of digital trust interoperability. And I would like to thank Miss Karen Chang for organizing this wonderful event as part of the APKIC consortium. And I again would like to thank each and every one of you for attending this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srinivasan. Now, let's move on to the first agenda of today's workshop, eIDAS introduction. Let's welcome Tolis Abladas, IT transformation leader of the European Commission.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I know you can see my presentation.
Yeah, it's all good.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure being here together with you and having the opportunity to explain you the mutual recognition mechanisms that the European Commission has put in place and established a year ago via the Third Countries Trust List program. Indeed, as Mr. Srinivasan mentioned before, we are very actively collaborating with Japan and India in this topic, and we foresee in the coming months to have many fruitful results and deliverables. The Third Countries Trust List program of the Commission is indeed capitalizing on the eIDAS regulation that was put in force in Europe in 2014. Over the years, the past decade actually, in the area and domain of the trust services, we observe a tremendous uptake of the European, inside the European territory, of the trust services, the qualified trust services, and we also observe the very big and important capitalization of these trust services in terms of the business workflows, financial workflows, tourism, health domains, education domains, and this is a success story that, considering the interest and the collaboration with all of these third countries that we, for the time being, collaborate under the Third Countries Trust List program, we believe that expanding the interoperability that we have inside our European Union member states towards these third countries, it will boost the trade, it will boost the exchange of students if we're talking about the education domain, among other things. Going into some details regarding the Third Countries Trust List program. This program is a streamlined and well-defined onboarding journey for every third country that is willing to align their trust services ecosystem with the European one. The eIDAS dashboard is a dedicated portal that actually offers several tools and infrastructure in which actually the third countries can capitalize and of course Commission as well, in order to conclude and advance at the technical level. All of this started, by the way, through the International Compatibility Pilot, which is part of the program, 2.5 years ago with the collaboration with Japan. And there, at that time, we had defined the Mutual Recognition Agreement technical specification. This MRA technical specification is now in the version 2.2. We have advanced heavily on the specification, on the advancement of the specification. And under the International Compatibility Pilot, we also offer a test list of trusted lists, a test PKI, sample electronic signatures, and of course, the reference implementation of the digital signing services, the so-called DSS library. It's an open source library that everybody can download freely from our repositories and perform validation of electronic signatures or to test their implementation against the European standards. Last but not least, the third countries trust list program has plenty of material and documentation that is residing in a document repository in a dedicated section of the eIDAS dashboard. And this is the guidance and the triggering point for any third country that would like or seeking a mutual recognition of their trust service with the European ones to start already have a look there in order to make their self-assessment. Currently, we have under the eIDAS regulation, Article 14, which is the legal basis on concluding a mutual recognition agreement between the Union and a third country. With the adoption of the second version of the
I think there is a internet connection issue. Hello, Tolly. While we were waiting for Tolly to join us back, if all the audience, if you have any questions, you can type in your questions in our live streaming YouTube channel in the chat bot, and then we will have time to answer all the Q&A session. Sorry, everyone, we're waiting for Police Abladas to join us again, so there might be a 2-3 minutes delay, and we're trying to connect him again. Just forgive us for a second.
So in the meanwhile, if at all you do get any questions on the YouTube channel, you can post them over here so that any of us can try to answer those.
Actually, only the speakers has access to these teams. So
okay.
we will try to collect all the questions together. And during each speaker session, if you finish your session earlier, we will ask the questions. But if you finish your session on
now
time,
that we have some time, now that we have some time, if at all any questions have come up there,
I've seen some questions. Announcement to all the audience, due to internet connection issues, we will switch our agenda just a little bit, and we will start from Mr. Vicente Andreu Navarro's session, and his topic is about EU digital identity wallet, and let's welcome Vicente.
Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see it.
Yes, it's all good.
Okay. So first of all, apologize in the name of my colleague Tolis, also from the European Commission, because he has had a problem with the laptop. It seems that the laptop has crashed and he has not been able to reconnect. The topic that he was discussing really was very well connected with the one that I am going to introduce to you now. In fact, he has mentioned eIDAS regulation adopted by the European Commission in 2014. For trust services and digital identities in Europe. And this eIDAS regulation has been or is now in the process of being reviewed or being amended. The main novelty of the new regulation, apart of the fact that the trust services, in what regards to Toli's presentation before, will keep more or less the same structure that we had since 2014, and that despite of the fact that the trust services are still the basis for many aspects of or many use cases for the applicability of trust services, but also for digital identities. The main novelty, as I mentioned before, of this amended eIDAS regulation is the introduction in the EU of a digital identity wallet. That's the main novelty. So I'm going to talk to you about that. First, I will explain you why digital identification is important in our view. I will tell you the what is the digital identity wallet that we are now designing. And finally, I will mention also the how. What is our roadmap to this towards this EU digital identity wallet? So let me go ahead and start with first the why. Why do we want to develop this? Why do we think that the identity is important? Well, we are creating this in the frame of a policy program that is called the Digital Decade, that has the objective of achieving by 2030 more skilled population in what regards to digital technologies, a better infrastructure also for giving support to digital activities, and provide secure, innovative, and sustainable digital services to all European all European citizens. We aim also at improving the business by digitalizing companies of all sizes, not only big, large companies, but also small and medium enterprises, and introduce them to the use of the tools such as the cloud, big data, or artificial intelligence. And finally, and probably a very relevant one for the topic that we are discussing right now, the government making available key public services to the totality of the population of the EU and giving them access to an electronic identity. So that's the why, but we need to explain also what do we think is a good digital identity. Now, a good digital identity must be unambiguous, must offer a high level of assurance, careful design that allows robust authentication of the citizen, that instill confidence in the user and in the service provider, confidence in the sense that the user matches the ID subject. Digital identity is good also if it protects privacy. One of the main objectives of this digital identity wallet is to have built-in safeguards to ensure privacy of and security. A main objective of this wallet is to give the user control over their personal data, that any decision taken with regard to the citizen's data is under the control of the citizen. And finally, a good digital identity but must be also machine verifiable and especially interoperable. In our case, interoperability is of paramount importance. We are a club of 27 member states, and we look, as you will see later on, there will be a diversity of EU digital identity wallets, and we want them to be interoperable among them. But we also have in mind future interoperability of our model with other models around the world. So what is the digital identity wallet? The digital identity wallet is a mobile application for your mobile phone, for the mobile phone of EU citizens, developed as a response to the challenges of digital identification. It will allow the citizens to identify securely online and access a wide variety of public and private services. That's also a difference introduced in the new regulation. The current regulation, the current eIDAS regulation, will put the focus only on public services. Now we want to engage in this in the use of the EU digital identity wallet, also private services. And the wallet will allow to store, present, and share a variety of electronic attestations of electronic data related to the citizen that range from university diplomas to fidelity cards to public transport tickets or payment means. So anything related to the citizen could be stored in principle in the wallet as an electronic attestation. Another functionality of the wallet that is very relevant is that it will allow citizens to sign documents with a high quality electronic signature, a qualified electronic signature under European standards, and also will allow to do this easily. One of the problems we have currently is that even if we have the means for generating electronic signatures, issuing them or generating these electronic signatures is not always so easy. We need to improve the user experience in order to do this more straightforward. And finally, the digital identity wallet will be made available in every member state to all citizens, residents, and business. So we will have the EU digital identity wallet for natural persons, citizens, and residents, and we will have digital identity wallets also for legal persons, for business and organizations. There will be, we are building this with an open mind and using an open model. There will be not only, or there will be not a unique EU digital identity wallet. There will be multiple instances of digital identity wallets, but all of them will be built using a common set of specifications developed by the European Commission and the member states. All the wallets, independently of their nature, they will be interoperable, and we are building this on top of two basic pillars that are public. We are building the wallet with a reference architecture framework that has been published. In fact, it was published. The last version was published last evening, yesterday, in Europe, and we are building also a reference implementation of the wallet that can be used by member states or can be used by any stakeholder, any agent interested in develop a wallet. We are developing this reference implementation of the wallet that is open source also, and it was also published yesterday. The first reference implementation that we published was published yesterday. Okay, so there is a single set of specifications, an open source reference implementation, but many different wallets in the EU, as you can see in that map. The ecosystem of the wallet is composed of different agents. First, the European institutions that are developing the wallet and are also building or adopting the regulation that gives support to this digital identity wallet. The relying parties that are public and private organizations that will use the data stored in the wallet. They will verify electronic identities and they will verify electronic attestations of attributes delivered by the citizen using the wallet to them. There are other stakeholders and the governmental bodies in charge of controlling, for instance, the use of data protection authorities, the conformity assessment bodies that take care of supervising the issuance of electronic signature means, of any kind of services, of digital identity providers, and the national administration that at the end are in charge of issuing the digital identification means and identify the users electronically. Of course, the wallet users, European citizens, residents and businesses, that are the subject of the electronic identification and the subject of the electronic attestation of attributes, the wallet providers that are device manufacturers, software companies that develop wallets, trust service providers, whatever, following the set of specification that we have in mind, we are preparing, anyone can develop a wallet. We are testing an important part of the development of the wallet right now is the testing of the reference implementation through 4 large-scale pilots that are testing a variety of use cases that I will go a bit more in detail a bit later. And finally, the issues of PID and attestation. So this is the ecosystem. I will show you a very high-level architectural design of the wallet, but I don't want to go into the details. This will be more or less the structure. We have a wallet provider on top, a wallet, electronic attestation providers, digital identity providers, the citizen that uses the wallet, and an important part of it is also the cryptographic devices that provide the necessary protection to the citizen's wallet. There is a cryptographic application that will secure all the interaction between the wallet and the relying parties. And there is a cryptographic device that will store the private keys of the citizen. So I'm not going to go into more detail in this. I don't think this is the object of this presentation, but we plan to obtain clear benefits for a variety of stakeholders. For instance, for citizens, we want to protect their data. This wallet is a publicly issued wallet with a main concern about protection of personal data of the citizen. The data stored in the wallet and shared, disclosed to third parties are the minimum set of data necessary for providing the service. There are also clauses in the regulation that prohibit traceability or prohibit the observability of the actions of the citizen. So the citizen will be able to access public and private services across borders in Europe with good guarantees of privacy and security. The governments will have the advantage that they will be able to provide digital services with more security. They will prevent fraud. The relying parties also will improve security and privacy and will reduce the cost of authentication and of knowing their customers. And society in general will increase the number of online transactions, in our view. They will hopefully imply new business opportunities and economic growth. Where we are right now, the regulation proposal, the amended eIDAS, was voted in Parliament last week and adopted by the Parliament. It will be adopted by the Council soon. That means that probably in April, May 2024, the new regulation will be published in the official journal of the European Union. We are now currently preparing the implementing acts with the technical specification of the wallet. Large number of implementing acts with different details about the interaction between the wallet and relying parties, registration of wallets, registration of relying parties, and these kind of things. All the technical details will be included in this implementing act. The implementing acts will be adopted with two different deadlines. One first set of implementing acts that rely specifically with the requirements of the wallet will need to be adopted 6 months after the publication, after the formal adoption of the regulation, so by the end of the year. And another set of implementing acts will be adopted in one year after the adoption of the regulation. How are we building the wallet with a set of elements that we consider of paramount importance? A good user experience. The user needs to be comfortable with the use of the wallet and be capable of performing the actions, disclosure of data to relying parties, but also electronic signature or obtention of electronic attestation of attributes by providers of these electronic attestations. We are building a trust model based on the trust model that Thomas was explaining at the beginning of this webinar. We are designing the wallet components and interfaces so that it's secure, and provide the functionality that is required. And finally, the security requirements and the formats for the electronic attestations or attributes that it will contain. So these are basically the technical requirements that we are currently working in. This technical specification will be in the implementing acts, but the implementing acts will, when it is convenient, refer to other specifications, international standards, or that can be compulsory or no for building the wallet, and also to guidelines when there are no compulsory specifications. Some guidelines can be also published with regard to the wallet. Finally, an element that will contribute to the security of the system is the certification one. The certification scheme is being developed right now, and all wallets that will be issued will need to be certified in the future. That's the guarantee that will give to the citizen the certainty that he can use a wallet with absolute trust in that it will behave as a EU digital identity wallet. We have mentioned that there will be different wallets, and that these wallets will need to be interoperable. So an aspect that makes that all these wallets are uniform is that all of them can be certified. I think that I'm already extending too much in the presentation. I only want to show to you a last slide with all the use cases that we are working on. I mentioned the wallet prototype before, the different prototype releases, but in the pilots we are testing many different use cases. There are 4 pilots. Is one of them testing the use cases that you have in these labels below the consortium indicated, but basically the pilots that are testing the wallet right now are testing use cases related to access to government services, mobile driving licenses, exchange of education credentials, health, travel, access to social security, registration of SIM. Yeah.
Vincent, I'm so sorry. So your time is up. Do you want to give us like a short conclusion of your session, and then we'll move on to the next agenda?
Okay. So these are the use cases, and this is our plans, the next steps. The regulation will be adopted during this year, probably not in the first quarter, but in the second. The implementing acts will be adopted by the end of the year, and the wallet will be available to all citizens in all EU member states in 2026. And that's all from my side.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vicente. And welcome back, Tolis Sabladas. You're ready?
Yes, I'm ready, and apologies for what happened. Let's see whether it's going to be better now. So,
no problem.
Just to recap from what I left it before, I was talking about the third country mutual recognition under the Article 14 of the eIDAS regulation that is going to be actually replaced by the implementing acts, as Vicente was explaining right now, the roadmap of the implementing acts. However, this is relevant to the legal basis. So instead of having the Article 14, the existing eIDAS regulation, they are going to be the implementing acts that are going to be implementing the eIDAS 2.0. So the mutual recognition agreement lifecycle process flow is going to remain the same. It's the one that we see in our screens, and actually we can identify the preparatory phase, the engaging mutual recognition process and assessment, the detailed mutual assessment, preparation of the mutual recognition agreement signature between the union and the third country, the execution, monitoring, and termination of these mutual recognition agreements. The third country's trust list program and European Commission focuses on the guidance for the technical pilot tools to assist the third countries on the first phase, the preparatory phase. Because in the preparatory phase, we conduct the feasibility studies and the self-assessments, the technical pilots, which is needed by 99% certainty. And then as soon as both parties are very, very satisfied about the conclusion of these technical pilots and preparatory work that we will perform in many other elements, then we will transition to the second step, which is the official submission by the third country to request a mutual recognition assessment / agreement.
Please, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
You're back. You're back now.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening today with this
That's
with my PC. Shall I go to the previous slide or shall I stay this one?
Previous one, please.
Previous one. Okay, so I was about to say that as Vicente mentioned before, with the eIDAS 2.0, implementing acts are going to replace the Article 14 of the existing eIDAS regulation. However, the legal basis is going to change. The workflow process for a mutual recognition agreement is going to be the same. So we see in this workflow the preparatory phase, the engagement on the mutual recognition process and assessment, the detailed mutual assessments, the preparation of the mutual recognition agreement at the legal level and the political level, and then we have the mutual recognition agreement signing, execution, monitoring, and termination phases. And the third country's trustless program, as well as the European Commission, is focusing on the preparatory phase. We, in the preparatory phase, base our assessments and our work that we're going to conduct on seeking equivalence in the pyramid of trust, starting by the trust presentation, about the best practices and standards that we are using in our territories. As we move up to this pyramid, we will seek equivalence on the qualified trust services, legal related provisions. It is really important also to have an equivalence on the supervision and auditing model that is being followed by both territories, because under the eIDAS regulation here in Europe, we have a very well-defined structured governance, as well as supervision and auditing processes in place in order to make sure that the issuing authorities, certification issuing authorities, are being supervised and audited in a very transparent way, which offers a lot of credibility and security. Last but not least, the equivalence for the interoperability at the technical level of our electronic signatures, for instance, is going to come by the alignment of the trusted lists. In Europe, we have the European Union list of trusted lists, and we have the trust list model that we follow in many elements. Perhaps in the wallet it's going to be the same, by the way, the UDI wallet. And we expect the third country to build such an infrastructure in their place. In the preliminary assessment, what we are asking from the countries that are seeking or express their interest to conclude ultimately a mutual recognition agreement for their trust services, we start this preliminary assessment by having and receiving, actually, by the third country, a general description of their framework, on the trust services framework, covering all 4 legal, supervisory, technical, and trust presentation aspects. We also have an assessment and a view and insight on the legislative documents ruling the operation of their trust services framework. We will also like to receive links to third countries' relevant trust services framework normative or informative resources. We have also compiled under the national compatibility pilot a self-assessment checklist under the Article 14. This self-assessment checklist is going to be revised following the implementing acts that are going to become in force as soon as they are adopted. And this self-assessment actually is a very good starting point for any third country in order to understand the magnitude of the changes that they have to perform, or the new implementations that they have to perform, mainly at the technical level, but also on the legal level as well. And then last but not least, on the preliminary assessment phase, we also check the list of the standards the third country is using on their trust services framework. We use in Europe technical standards from ETSI, the European Telecommunications Standardization Institute. There are several other standards around the trust services, ISO standards, among others. However, we would like to be more or less aligned on that level as well, and this is why we would like to receive on the preliminary assessment phase this kind of information. Following a successful conclusion of the preliminary assessments, we move to the detailed assessments. There in the detailed assessments, actually is the Commission that's taking the leading role. In the preliminary assessment, is the third country that needs to perform their studies to prepare about this mutual recognition agreement process, provide to the Commission plenty of information as you saw. But now on the detailed mutual assessments, it's the Commission that is in the driving seat. So the Commission undertakes the conduction of the detailed assessment of the technical and/or legal pilots. For the time being, in the collaboration that we had so far with 3 countries, we conducted already a detailed assessment at the technical level, and I foresee that for Japan and India, it will be done. It will be the same. We will conduct a detailed assessment at the technical level and not at the legal level, because that will be an element for the second workflow steps, the following workflow steps that you saw before. We also plan to draft on the detailed mutual assessments the execution plan, including the proposed resulting pointer on the European Commission's list of trusted lists. And the European Commission also drafts the monitoring and termination plans that will be discussed together with the applicant third country, because the monitoring, especially the monitoring plan, is something that needs to be negotiated and agreed between the 2 parties in order to make sure that in terms of the supervision and auditing practices that are going to be followed in the third country, this is something that both parties are going to be, let's say, feel relaxed about it. The termination plan is, let's say, a formality, because perhaps one day this mutual recognition agreement might be terminated, and both parties will need to conclude on the process of this termination. But in our opinion, this is not such a heavyweight plan to draft. The last bullet point on the slide is about the annual reports and the exchange of the annual reports between the MRA signatories. In Europe, under the eIDAS regulation, all the member states, under the governance that I very briefly explained before, exchange annual reports between themselves in order to have an insight of what's going on in any member state in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of best practices, in terms of standards, among other things. The same practice needs to be followed between the Union and the third country. And when I say the Union, I'm talking about the EU 27 member states and the third country. Of course, Commission is going to be in the middle in order to facilitate this exchange of annual reports. And I will conclude here with the minimum requirements about the third country's trust service providers or trust services framework. In order to a third country to be, let's say, eligible or having plenty of potential and opportunities to conclude a mutual recognition agreement between ourselves, we will assess heavily the legal landscape. This is an assessment on the third country's legal framework, because we need to make sure that the relevant eIDAS European Union laws, including personal data protection, privacy, consumer protection, consumer rights, freedom of expression, are being followed in the third country. We value very much this kind of elements, and we expect by the third countries, the candidate third countries that are seeking mutual recognition agreement, to be on the same page with us. Another element that we pay tremendous value is the supervision and conformity. It's all about the regime that is being applied in the third country, and we need to make sure that when we're going to exchange these electronically signed documents based on certificates issued by our trust services, our trust service providers, no matter if they are based in Europe or they're based in the third country that we have the mutual recognition agreement in force. We need to make sure that we are not going to have any security incidents or any fraud. And this is why the supervision and auditing regime is really, really important element in our assessment. Technical and best practices, this is very, very important element as well, because the practices and the technical specifications that are being followed by the companies, the certification authorities that are issuing this kind of certificates in the third country should be very, very strict, because these are very, very strong legal and personal entitlements and identify a person or a legal establishment online. Therefore, it's really, really important element to us to make sure that we have as much reassurance as possible that all of these best practices and technical specifications are being followed in the third country. And last but not least, the trust presentation that I mentioned before is the model that we use in Europe. There are several other models across the globe for this trusted presentation, but in our case, we use the trusted list, and this is what we expect by the third countries. Final slide. A mutual recognition agreement is beneficial for both parties. We had a tremendous uptake of the trust services in Europe, and we saw and observed actually a tremendous uptake on many, many domains, business domains, especially our citizens and companies. They were benefited heavily, but we're not alone in this globe. We do business, we want to do business and exchange, let's say, ideas, people, and among other things, and expand our horizons and interoperability with the rest of the globe. And this is why we launched the Third Country Strategies Program and the Digital Partnerships in Action program of the Commission. Beneficial, just 4 bullet points here. Beneficial domains of this mutual recognition agreement is, for instance, the education domain, by having digital diplomas, or by having an online enrollment to a university campus based on the validation of some electronically signed documents, is something that we can definitely see it happening. It happens already among the member states. Why not to happen by foreign students that are coming to Europe or Europeans going to that third country? The same stands for the health domain, by using electronic prescriptions, or by having, imagine a tourist that is visiting a European member state to send his medical record to be sent to the hospital that he's being hospitalized during his trip. Business-wise, invoicing, contract signing, faster recruitments, elimination of red tape, and in terms of trade, the online certificate certification program, sealing of these on digital certificates will boost these transactions and will eliminate the red tape in these processes. Thank you very much, and my sincere apologies for all of these problems that I face today.
No problem. Thank you so much, Tolis. And it seems that there are no questions for you right now at the moment on YouTube channel, but just a reminder to all the audiences that if you something or some questions pop up in your mind, just feel free to type in your question in the YouTube channel, and we will collect all the questions later, and we will send the questions to the speakers and get the answers for you. And thank you so much, Tolis, again. And we will move on to our next agenda. Thank you. The next agenda is conformity assessment in eIDAS ecosystem. And let's welcome Daniel Liang, General Manager of Global Operation of TCIC. Welcome, Daniel.
Yeah, let me share my screen first. Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yeah, you're all good.
Okay. Okay, thanks for the opportunity to share the idea of the conformity assessment in eIDAS ecosystem. So what I'm talking about the conformity assessment this session is what is happening in EU. And with regard to those conformity assessment for third countries that will be implemented later when the mutual agreement between EU and third country is established, just as the previous speaker indicated. For the agenda for my sharing, I will cover the eIDAS ecosystem, then the conformity assessment from the CAB perspective, and conformity assessment from the TSP, QTSP perspective, and follow a Q&A. Talk about myself a little bit. I'm the auditor and assessor, also the instructor in TCIC. As TCIC is a third-party certification body, so yes, we are in the industry for conformity assessment, and we hope to share with you the ideas of the multilateral recognition between accreditation and certification scheme. Besides the full job in TCIC, as TCIC is from Canada, and we also participate in Canada's Mirror Committee for International Standardization. For example, the subcommittee 27 is for ISO, for example, ISO 2701 with regard to information security, as well as other cybersecurity and privacy protection international standard. And next, I will start with the eIDAS ecosystem. The eIDAS ecosystem, as you know, is eligible for 30 countries, including 20 member states plus 3 countries, which is Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein. So the EEA, as well as EU, is eligible for eIDAS. And all other countries we call is third countries. And we hope to see the harmonization between EU and all other countries to be mutually recognized and to expand the eIDAS to all other countries. Talking about the ecosystem, we will look at first the EU level and member state level. In the upper parts, there's a trust list scheme operator to maintain the trust list in EU. And there's another role is European Cooperation for Accreditation, which is EA. And in each member state, there's a supervisory body and a national accreditation body in each member state. And we have conformity assessment body. For example, the certification body is a form of conformity assessment body. And we have TSP, QTSP, and we have organization for legal persons, and we have citizen for natural persons. The EA is in cooperation with the national accreditation body, which is NAB in each member states. And NAB will accredite CAB in each member state, and CAB will assess TSP and QTSP. It really depends on the time and if it is certified. And the TSP and QTSP, when they are certified, they will notify the supervisory body, and the CAB will submit the assessment report to the supervisory body. Then the supervisory body will evaluate if the TSP will be qualified or be granted as a QTSP. And the result will be updated to the trust list in EU level. Then when it is listed in trust list, then TSP will become QTSP. This is the main difference between TSP and QTSP. When we look at all other ETSI standards, sometimes you can see the standards for TSP, and sometimes you see some other European standards for QTSP, and this is the difference between these two terms. And the organization will subscribe the service from TSP, QTSP, and all, as well as the citizens, which is natural person, to subscribe service from TSP, QTSP. This is the all the roles in the ecosystem under eIDAS. So as we are from certain countries, and most of the countries understand the IFMLA, which is the multilateral recognition arrangement, and it's a 5-level agreement. And the level 1 is the standard for accreditation body. And level 2 is the accreditation activities such as certification. And the eIDAS is a certification scheme. And level 3 is the generic normative document. For example, the ISO 17021 Part 1 for management system. And the level 4 is sector specific. For example, for information security for management system, we have 2706. And level 5 is normative document used by certification assessment bodies. So in the EU side, in eIDAS, we have also a 5-level scheme to cover the eIDAS accreditation and certification. For level 1, the 17011 is adopted, and for level 2 is a certification for TSP and QTSP. And the accreditation standard is 17065, selected by EU. And for level 4, the ETSI European Standard 319403 Part 1, 2, and 3 is for the accreditation of conformity assessment body. And other ETSI standard is used by TSP, QSP, and also included at the certification activities performed by CAB. So if you are familiar with ISO 27001, then you can see the corresponding hierarchy structure for information security. And the eIDAS is based on the ISO 27002, the best practice from the information security point of view. So if you are familiar with ISO 27001, it is a good base to build all the concept and all the ideas with regard to eIDAS. And for certification body or the conformity assessment body, then the accreditation will include the parts in blue. With regard to conformity assessment from the CAB perspective, the ISO 17065 is the conformity assessment requirement for body certifying product, process, and services. And this is the standard for accreditation. And the CAB can use another standard, which is 17067. This is a guideline for CAB's reference to create the certification scheme. With the certification scheme, the CAB will be able to submit the application to national accreditation body for accreditation. When it is accredited for a CAB, then it will be the body to assess TSP and QTSP. With regard to the conformity certification scheme, when it relates to services, and CAB can reference 17028 to create the certification scheme for accreditation. Yeah, this is the basic, the standard for accreditation. In eIDAS, the ETSI standard is a European standard. The 319403 series is for service, is for trust service provider conformity assessment. This has 3 parts, and part 1 is the general requirement, and part 2 is additional requirement for TSP issue publicly trusted certificate. And part 3 is also additional requirement for EU qualified trust service providers. So for the first time for TSP to be assessed, then the CAB need to be qualified for ISO 17065 plus part 1. And in the future, part 3. And for CAB to assess those TSP issue publicly trusted certificate, then another standard part 2 will be added for the accreditation. And from the TSP and QTSP perspective with regard to CAB assessment, we can see the first standard is ETSI 319401 is the general policy requirement for TSP. Then there's another standard 319411 is the policy and security requirement for TSP issuing certificate. Part 1 is for general requirement, and Part 2 is a requirement for TSP issuing EU qualified certificate. So the first time the TSP will be assessed by Part 1. When it complies to EU qualified certificate, then Part 2 will be involved. And for certificate profiles, another series of standard ETSI 319412. There are 5 parts in the series, and you can see the difference from Part 1 to Part 5. So the CAB will assess the TSP according to various conditions to adopt Part 1 through Part 5 for the assessment. And for sector-specific requirement, if it is related to open banking, then the ETSI 119495 should be referenced. And there's some additional requirement in this standard, so that the CAB will follow the requirement to assess the TSP, QTSP in specific sectors. So let's look at the time span for a TSP and QTSP for the certification journey. In the beginning, the TSP will spend some time to build and to establish the management system for the TSP. So this is currently we call the implementation stage, or sometimes from the CAB point of view, it's stage 0. It's for general preparation, for the documentation, for all the best practice, and to adopt and to implement in the TSP. It may take 6 to 12 months to get ready. When the TSP feel I'm ready and I'm going to apply for the certification, then they can submit the application to conformity assessment body. Then the certification process will start. The certification process includes stage 1, which is the documentation review, and the assessor will assess a bunch of the documents from the TSP and to see if it is ready to move to stage 2. And the stage 2 is the stage that all the assessors will be on site and to look at the document and to examine the activities and look at the record as the evidence to evaluate if the practice of the TSP is compliant to the international standard or European standard. So the 2-stage assessment to be combined in the certification process. Then at the end, the CAP will assess and to evaluate and make a decision to see if the TSP is certified by the CAP and the certification scheme. If it is positive and the certification decision is made, then a certificate will issue to TSP. So it is a certified TSP. Then the TSP will submit the qualification and the application to supervisory body. For supervisory bodies, evaluation and to make a decision if it is granted as a QTSP. When it is granted as a QTSP, then the QTSP will be listed in the trust list. And from that time and onward, the surveillance assessment will be adopted for the QTSP. When we call it surveillance, but it's not like ISO 27001. For ISO 27001, it is a reduced mandate. They are reduced mandate for surveillance assessment. But for eIDAS, it's actually a reassessment to include both stage 1 and stage 2. So the mandate are similar for the reassessment. So this is typically a journey for TSP to become QTSP. So we can see before it is certified, it's TSP. After it is granted as a QTSP, then it will start another journey as a QTSP. And from the point of view of TSP and QTSP, yes, we understand that if you are ready for ISO 27001, you are at a good base to apply for eIDAS and to prepare for eIDAS. But there's some other European standards for a TSP and QTSP to adopt and to be compliant. And during the assessment process, you need to be examined and to be interviewed and to be tested by conformity assessment body. And the TSP and QTSP, they need to be ready for those applicable ETSI standards. And the record and evidence matter, as the assessor will look for all the evidence for the evaluation of the compliance of the standard. And talking about the documentation, there's a lot of documentation and some levels. Typically, at the top level is the policy. So there is an example list for policies. We can see there should be some security policy and access control policy, and certificate policy and certification practice statement and archive policy. This is at the policy level. When we move to plans level, and we can see another example list. This is provided by ANISA in the document of conformity assessment of trust service providers. So this is for your reference. In some cases, you may have some more plans to support the business and to support the security as well as the privacy of the TSP or QTSP. And next is the procedure level. From policy, it shows our commitment and our direction to implement the policy. But when we talk about how to do, then you need to work out the procedures to implement your policy step by step and get it ready and compliant to the standard. And we have evidence management, as it is a conformity assessment. So we need to see the evidence for the compliance, the demonstration of compliance. And each TSP, they have their own services. For example, the registration service, the certificate generation service, or subject device provision service, dissemination service, and revocation management service, and revocation status service. And all the documents related to the service should be ready before stage 1. And stage 1, assessor will be on site and see all the documents and to assess the readiness. If TSP is ready to go to stage 2. If it is not ready, and assessor will recommend the TSP to hold for a while and to prepare more so that the certification will be at more chance to be successful.
Hi, Daniel. I'm so sorry that your session is up. Do you want to give us a short conclusion?
Sure. So the above are the list. And talking about the frequency, you can see the you can see the standard for various of the frequency. And the end, we can see the picture. The standard plays an important role between QTSP and TSP, and to be compliant to the standard with the support of accreditation and certification, and under the oversight of the EC and supervisory body, and to support the eIDAS accreditation and certification. Okay, that is what I have for the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And it seems that there are no questions for you at the moment. But once again, if all the audiences, you have any questions, just type in at the YouTube channel and we will record all the questions and share with the speakers. And then before we take a 10 minutes break time, let's take a group photo together again. So welcome all the speakers to switch on your camera again with us. Hi, Tollies. Tollies.
Yes, hello.
Yes. Can you switch on your camera? And
Yes,
Vincente, if you're online with us, can you switch on your camera as well? And Satoru Tezuka-san.
Yes, I'm Satoru.
Hi, can you? Yeah. Yes, everyone is here. Let's take a group photo. And can you give me a thumbs up, please? Okay, let's count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you so much. And then thank you to all the speakers at the first session. And we will have a 10 minutes break. We'll come back at 5:30 together. Please come back promptly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
All right, welcome back, everyone. The following workshop promises to be equally enlightening and informative. The next agenda is international mutual recognition between India, EU, and Japan. And let's welcome Professor Satoru Tezuka from Faculty of Environment and Information Studies at Keio University. Welcome, Professor.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Satoru Tezuka of Keio University, and I would like to present to you today about international mutual recognition between India, EU, and Japan. Oh, sorry, share the screen. It's okay for you to share the screen?
Yes,
Okay,
you're all good.
Okay. So the international mutual recognition between India, EU, and Japan. So today's contents, and first I will explain the concept of international mutual recognition and why it is one of the most important functions to realize DFFT, the Japanese concept, is the data free flow with trust. And next, I will speak about the significance of DFFT, which stands for Data Free Flow with Trust. And then I will speak about EU-Japan collaboration, and next about India, EU-Japan collaboration. Then I will explain about the institutional agreement for partnership, which means that the G7s decided to establish. So, but first, I'd like to explain the significance of DFFT. So, as many of you may know, Japan's late Prime Minister Abe announced Japan's idea of DFFT to the World Economic Forum at Davos on 2019. This photo showed the late Prime Minister Abe at the time. The main idea in his speech were to start a forum for a discussion focused on data governance under the roof of the World Trade Organization, establish a system to implement DFFT, which will be the most important issue for the new economy driving the fourth industrial revolution and also Society 5.0. And success along with the efforts of other countries. There was an idea he announced to promote DFFT. So I believe that achieve the T in DFFT, which stands for trust, is the most important strategy for our country. It is our belief that in Society 5.0 and the digital transformation, which means DX, good, up-to-date, accurate, and abundant real data will be the most important source of value. And the distribution of these data with trust on a global scale is essential for achieving digital trade. For data to be distributed with trust, a trust service infrastructure such as electronic authentication, electronic signature is essential to prevent tampering of data and spoofing of senders and receivers. I believe that the trust service infrastructure based on international mutual recognition is exactly what is needed to realize the digital trade on a global scale. This slide shows the current state of digital trade in our country. The photo showed the signing ceremony of Japan-EU digital trade between the late Prime Minister and former EU Commission President Juncker. As shown here, the agreement between Japan and the EU, Japan and the US, and Japan and the UK are conducted bilaterally. From the perspective of trust, the most important thing here is that data is distributed with trust. This page shows some experts from the EPA and the FDA communique of each digital trade. The words shown in the red, electronic authentication and signature, are the most fundamental on the trust function. Now, I will explain why bilateral economic authentication and economic signature are necessary. Please look at this diagram. It shows the idea of cyberspace. We can think of cyberspace that consists of data, person, organization, things, process, and product. To prevent the tampering of data, electronic signature is used. To prevent spoofing of people, organization, and things, electronic authentication is used. And infrastructure, which is essential for those, is the trust service infrastructure. To achieve digital trade on a global scale, it is necessary to create an environment in which electronic authentication, electronic signature can be used in multilateral rather than bilateral cooperation. As you can see here, the idea is to expand from bilateral, as in the upper diagram, to multilateral, as in the lower diagram. This is exactly what international mutual recognition of trust service infrastructure is about. To explain the international mutual recognition of trust service infrastructure, let us first go back to the purpose of realizing DFFT. As shown in this figure, DFFT is achieved with a three-layer architecture. From the top, there are three layers: the trust application service layer. The second is the trust data distribution layer. And the bottom, the trust service infrastructure layer. The trust application service layer is for the input and output of data, and also the utilizing of data. To trust data distribution layer is for exchanging the data securely with entity. The bottom is the trust service layer, is for ensuring trust by preventing tampering and spoofing. In this diagram, the trust service infrastructure, which correspond to the trust service layer, exists in each country and region, and those are linked together multilaterally. It means that the T in DFFT is realized by establishing international mutual recognition. The next, we'll will speak about the EU-Japan project, which started from December 2022 to the present. The page shows the methodology for establishing the international mutual recognition that I have just described. The first, we must have equal footing of electronic signature and electronic authentication in each country and region. It is then that we can finally achieve international mutual recognition. For this objective, all 4 pillars shown in this table must be on an equal footing. The first pillar is legislation. The second is accreditation. The third is technology standard. And the fourth is trust anchor chain. Of these 4 pillars, registration and accreditation are negotiated among governments, while technology standard and the trust anchor chain are to be promoted among private sectors. As shown in this table, we recognize that our biggest challenge to absorb the differences in each country and region and achieve equal footing. To this end, all countries and regions will have to gather for good communication to discuss and establish international mutual recognition in the future. I believe that one of the ways to do this is to use the G7 framework. This page and the next page show achieved that we conducted, especially a demonstration between Japan and the EU Communication Commission at the G7 Digital Minister meeting. At the end of November 2022, I visited the EU Commission in Brussels and Luxembourg to discuss the demonstration of international mutual recognition for achieving the FFT. At the G7 Digital Minister meeting, I asked them if they would be willing to cooperate with Japan, and they have really agreed. After that, we have been holding almost all weekly general and technical meeting. And as a result, we have created a scoping document of demonstration with the EU Commission. And this page shows the idea of the demonstration conducted at the G7 Digital Minister meeting based on the scoping document. The objective of the demonstration is to establish international mutual recognition on a global scale. But even if this is realized, it will be meaningless unless users are able to have a clear image of it. Therefore, to understand international mutual recognition, it is very important to know what trust application services using the trust service infrastructure will be used. So, we decided to showcase applications related with carbon neutral CO2 emission management, which is the most widely discussed area of GX, green transformation, and with which we believe many people will focus on. When the data of this CO2 emission is distributed on global scale under the global supply chain. It is important from a trust perspective to show how to prevent tampering of data and spoofing of the transmission source. That is what the realization of the T in the FFD is about. That becomes possible only when electronic signature and electronic authentication are used. Therefore, as I have mentioned, international mutual recognition of the trust service infrastructure in each country and region is indispensable to make electronic signature and electronic authentication possible on a global scale. This was what this demonstration had proved. Next, I would like to introduce a joint project that is currently being implemented by India, EU, and Japan. This project was originally collaboration between EU and Japan, which have already explained, and India has joined in the project and has been participating since last May. We have been holding online meetings almost every week within this framework. To achieve international mutual recognition, the legitimacy of data, people, organizations, things, process, and product must be confirmed internationally, including India, the last year the host country of the G20, the Japan, the same the host country of the G7, G20 and G7. It is necessary to achieve equal footing internationally with respect to the 4 pillars explained, as I mentioned before: legislation, accreditation, technology standard, and trust anchor chain. And for this purpose, India should be included in order to compare whether equal footing can be achieved. So we ask India to fill in this table, the red portion. The scoping document prepared by India, EU, and Japan are shown in this page. The scoping document is based on the scoping document prepared by EU and Japan, shown as before, with additional content from India. The red text indicates the added content from India. Based on this, India conducted a demonstration at the G20. This page shows my presentation at the Global DPI Summit 2023 associated with the G20 in Pune, India. DPI stands for Digital Public Infrastructure. In my presentation, I explained the importance of international mutual recognition and informed the audience that we are implementing a joint project between India, EU, and Japan as a specific activity. Now, I would like to speak about the international agreement for partnership, which was declared to be established at the G7 Digital Minister meeting. The IAP will be launched this August at the G7 Digital Minister meeting. The demonstration of international mutual recognition by EU and Japan announced at the G7 Digital Minister meeting. At the time, the member of the IAP can include not only G7 but also members of G20, ASEAN, and Global South, as well as industrial, government, and academia, the worldwide levels and members join to this IAP. Finally,
Satoru-san, is this your last slide?
Okay, the last slide, yes. As a first step, and Japan, in collaboration with the EU, showcased international mutual recognition at the G7 Digital Minister meeting to demonstrate the need and to accelerate it at once. Next, and India has requested G20 members to include international mutual recognition as a theme of the G20 Digital Minister meeting. India made the same request to Japan, and Japan studied it possible. And if Japan proceed with India's request, and Japan would collaborate with India towards establishing international mutual recognition as a major strategy of G7, G20, and make efforts to achieve it as fast as possible. In this case, and Japan belongs to both G7 and G20, and Japan would do its best to contribute as a coordinator. Ultimately, I believe that it is extremely important to cooperate with G7 and G20 countries and regions to promote to global expansion of international mutual recognition. Thank you very much for your attention.
はい、ありがとうございます、Satoru-san. It seems that there are no questions for you at the moment.
Yes,
so
I see.
yeah, your session's finished here. And
Yes.
but we've seen that there are 2 questions regarding eIDAS, the previous 2 speakers. We will record these 2 questions and answer the questions afterwards. And then our next agenda is mobile PKI, and let's welcome Tejas Lagat, Director of Asia, Middle East, and Africa of Nexus Group. Welcome, Tejas.
Thank you, Cindy, and everyone. I hope everybody can see my slides.
Yes, you're all good.
And incidentally to take over from Satoru-san, I'm based in Pune, where Satoru-san recently was, to talk about the G20 forum. So happy to take the baton from Satoru-san. Thank you for the wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we jump, thank you. So before we jump into interoperability, let us take 2 steps back and try to address what issue we are trying to solve here. Okay, so picture this. Okay, your daughter is out for a girls' night to the most happening pub in town, and the security stops her and asks her for an ID. Okay, like most of us, she digs into her purse and shows her name is. She also ends up revealing the complete address of where she stays. Again, no reason for anybody to know where she stays. And thirdly, and sometimes even more important, is that she ends up revealing the real age, which I'm pretty sure not everybody is very happy about. So this scenario tells us what is currently wrong with the state of identities that we currently use. And what we will do over the next 15 minutes is try to look at how the new mechanisms that we currently are seeing, especially the ones that we saw today earlier, from Vincent on the digital wallets and so on and so forth, will help us address one of these core issues with the way the identity currently works. I think we have seen today and earlier sessions as well that the potential of the digital ID or the wallet as an ID to be able to go ahead and address the issues of using digital PKI technologies will allow us to go and unleash the pure power of PKI, while at the same time maintaining control over who is able to go and see data, and if at all we can reveal only partial data. We have also seen today that one of the earlier speakers spoke about an approval last week from the European Parliament for the approval of the eIDAS-based decentralized identities mechanisms. And that has a fantastic potential for us to be able to also allow to address scenarios like these. Now, bringing in interoperability, it's also interesting that you might actually end up revealing or giving information from the Indian driving license, let's say when you're traveling to Paris. And then how does it actually go ahead and interoperate in that mechanism? So let's go slightly deeper into understanding what are the different actors in play over here. And this is an image of a traditional plus a futuristic mechanism for decentralized identities, and also what is now called as verifiable credentials. So on the left, you will see the traditional trust issuers, trust centers or qualified trust centers, as we know currently, who are able to go and give identities to people. Below it, you will see the new form of what is called as an attribute issuer. These are typically educational institutions, skilling centers, professional qualification institutions, like, for example, if you're an architect or a lawyer or an engineer, who can qualify and recertify you after you have done some kind of academics, or certifications. And together, these are able to go and then give users or holders of identity the identities that they need to be able to go and prove who they are. The new world mechanism also introduces the concept of, on the top, what you can see is trust registers. Now, these could be traditional root certificate authorities, trust lists, or also the modern blockchain or distributed ledgers to be able to go and recertify that a certain transaction or a certain identity was really indeed issued. And anybody can just go ahead and check for it. On the right, you'll see again mechanisms for us to go ahead and verify these identities. And this could be anybody who wants to consume identities. It could be the government, it could be a private organization, it could also be an academic institution where you are going for higher learning. Now, the technologies that are needed to be able to go ahead and set this up are of course different. And today we will try to focus on only one aspect of it, which is the trusted client technologies. I think each of these deserves a separate session, but today we'll try to just spend about 7 to 8 minutes on this particular stack of trusted clients. And the trusted clients that we currently need to be able to go and have this transition from the traditional PKI that we currently follow more as a centralized PKI mechanism to the new interoperable mechanism, which could possibly be focused upon decentralized identities and virtual credentials, has about 4 important elements that this should have. One, of course, it should have a client. A client could be on a Windows or any other workstation, which should be able to go and take a smart card, or a cryptographic token or any kind of a credential, and allow the user to use it to be able to go and authenticate or digitally sign from the workstation. It should also allow people to use the TPM chips or any trusted execution environments on the clients to be able to create the public-private key pair and use those for signing or authentication as well. So it has a dual purpose. One is use external drives or smart cards, but also be able to use the inbuilt mechanisms as well. The second, and now we transition from the workstation to the mobile. We should have mechanisms to be able to go ahead and provide mechanisms to securely generate the public-private key pair, and of course use those for authentication and signing. The mechanisms for interaction could also be more advanced, where you should be able to go ahead and use a smart card with your phone so that you are able to go ahead and use a more trusted anchor like a smart card to be able to go ahead and mobile-based access to some of the applications that you might want to have, depending upon the assurance level that is desired. Thirdly, and now we get into the slightly futuristic part, is you would also need a digital ID wallet toolkit, which will allow you to go ahead and use your existing identities to be able to go ahead and request verifiable credentials, to be able to go ahead and create QR codes, which you can showcase to a verifier who can go ahead and verify the QR code and prove or verify who you are. Taking an example of what we earlier saw, I could go ahead and create a verifiable credential from my existing driving license, which is mobile-based, a simple credential that shows I'm 18+, and then show a QR code to the verifier who will simply scan it and go ahead and verify that indeed it is I'm 18+, without revealing any of the personal details that I might need to otherwise reveal in the physical world. And these both, the mobile-based application for traditional PKI versus the modern toolkit, should obviously be SDK-based, so that if at all our customers as trust centers do not want to go ahead and run our applications, we can give them an SDK which will allow them to run within their existing applications as well. So it should be more of a toolkit for software development rather than or purely an app as well. And then lastly, we come to a mobile ID middleware, as I said, which is able to go ahead and combine a smart card and also then be able to go ahead and use it with a phone, so that I'm able to use NFC or Bluetooth to be able to go ahead and talk to the card, verify the identity of the user from it, and then be able to communicate over the phone, which means we're kind of using the phone as a smart card reader or middleware to be able to go ahead and authenticate or sign transactions. Now, let's talk about the interoperability part here, because you could actually be now taking identities from across the world and trying to go ahead and prove them, in a different part of the world, and this is where a consistent architecture would help. Okay, so one thing that we probably should consider is that any kind of integration, and let me take my marker now, and we'll focus more on this orange part, should be able to have an open standards API to be able to go ahead and communicate, to any trust issuer, as well as to any authority that wants to verify my identity. Which means, irrespective of the mechanism that the user uses, it could be a smart card, it could be a TPM chip on the laptop, it could be an Android 4 or an iOS device, you should be able to go ahead and communicate and provision identities, irrespective of what the user's preferred device is. That is the provisioning part. And secondly, you should be able to go ahead and authenticate yourself and prove who you are, irrespective of the credential where you are. So one mechanism that we could possibly consider is considering some kind of a messaging layer in between the credential, which will allow us to go ahead and anonymize or abstract the complexities of where the device actually sits. Okay, so this is one thing for us to consider when we're looking at building trusted clients, not only for the current, but for the future as well. And of course, when you come to the trusted clients in the interoperable world, there's always a concern about how and where the private keys are stored. And I think there have been much advancements in this specific technology. And I think we have all seen the evolution of this technology as well. We have seen traditional use cases where we have seen SIM cards on a phone being used to go ahead and create and store securely private keys. And we know that because they typically involve telecom companies and toolkits on the SIM, which are not always very interoperable, such kind of mechanisms not met the kind of success that we hoped. And then we have tried mechanisms where we are able to use a software which is able to interact with a keychain or the key attestation device that is available on the modern mobile phones to go and create and secure private keys. And that has worked really well. Of course, it helps to go ahead and not just bank on it, but also go ahead and have other mechanisms, for foolproofing or securing the private key further, and to ensure that the signing and authentication happens in a very secure environment. So these are some mechanisms, which many trust centers, have tried out and been successful with it. What we will do now is, in the last part of the presentation, look at a few examples where this has been successful. The first one we will look at is Faroe Islands, which is a small region under the Kingdom of Denmark, with a population of about 50,000 citizens. And almost all of them, on the last count I checked, was 45,000 plus, which is the great 90% plus coverage. All now use a mobile-based identity to be able to go ahead and prove who they are when doing any interactions with the government or the private organizations as well. Now, the unique thing about Faroe Islands is, while most countries have gone for a physical plus digital identity mechanism, this country has gone purely for a digital ID without the existence of any kind of a physical ID. And it has been extremely successful in this. No physical cards. They also allow a mechanism to be able to go ahead and have the identities both on the workstation as well as on the mobile phone with no degradation of the functionality, which means you could have a TPM chip on the laptop, work as a trusted execution environment, create the key pair from it and use it, or you could have it on the phones, both Android as well as iOS as well. Of course, they follow a very secure onboarding mechanism, and they use SDKs to be able to go ahead and consume and create the new national ID app. Next steps for this evolution, and this is currently already being rolled out, is the move towards from a national ID to a driving license and possibly also visual identification in the future as well. A visual identification which is again based upon PKI. Of course, completely standards based, which allows us to go ahead and have interoperability, which is the theme of the discussion today. So using mechanisms like OpenID Connect, using federation systems, we are able to go ahead and have these identities being federated across borders, depending upon the trust mechanisms currently established. Okay, we'll take another example of the traditional centralized PKI model, which has been again very successful, which is with the country Monaco, where they are using currently a combination of a physical smart ID along with a digital identity as well, which means as a citizen of Monaco, I can currently go to a government office, typically an interior ministry office or a police station, and go ahead and go to a kiosk, use my national ID, and use the kiosk to go ahead and self-provision myself a digital identity. And then the digital identity can be used for my digital interactions. Again, as per the best practices that is currently followed the world over, some mechanisms do require only a digital ID on the phone, which is enough. And some advanced transactions which have a material impact on the user allow or require you to go ahead and have the phone and the card together so that you can use the NFC to be able to go ahead and talk to the card and use a physical card as well before the authentication and signing happens. So it's a combination of both physical as well as digital. On all the slides that we currently have, we have links so that you can click on these and go and dig deeper into any of these case studies. But now we come to interesting one, which is I love like more because of its futuristic nature, and this is a case study that is currently within France, but now soon being interoperable within the European Union as well. Agriculture, as we know, is a critical activity that currently happens all over the world, including in Europe. And the government created a mechanism to go and harness the data about the agricultural practices, and then the crops being grown by the farmers to a centralized system called as the Agri Data Hub, or the AG Data Hub. Now, what is important over here is to go ahead and allow the farmers to decide not only what data is being shared, but also to decide what data is being consumed by whom. And this is where the usage of decentralized identities and verifiable credentials what significantly helpful. The farmers are able to enroll themselves, are able to go ahead and push out data which they want to approve towards the portal. Also, anybody who wants to consume the data should also register on the portal and get for themselves a verifiable credential. This verifiable credential, is then checked and approved by the farmer, so that the corresponding entity gets access to the specific farmer's data, which will also mean that the farmer is allowed to go ahead and revoke the access by preventing the verifiable credential, and that way the end entity which has the original verifiable credential is no longer able to access the farmer data. So this is a great experimentation about how verifiable credentials and decentralized identities could work. At the next stage, which is currently in this particular year, this will soon be extended, towards the European Union. There's the Gaia hub, which is being developed all across Europe, and this will be a significant contributor towards that as well. Again, to ensure interoperability between the data exchanges across the farmers within Europe. So a great example of this once again. Another example, again based in Europe, which is that of the identity for health professionals, where it's a combination of physical IDs, but because of the advent of mobile identities, this is again a mechanism of a centralized PKI, where doctors, health practitioners can go ahead and prove who they are from the mobile digital identities to be able to go ahead and get access to any data that they need. So across the healthcare sector within France, currently this is being used, and when we can see the amount of authentications per month happening purely on this platform, all based on mobile digital identities. Lastly, I know I have a minute left, Cindy, so I'll bring this last case study up, which is very close to Asia, which is in Thailand, where all the government officials of Thailand are soon going to go ahead and get, and this is currently being provisioned, a mobile digital identity instead of their current physical digital identities, which become very difficult to replace and replenish. And these are going to be used currently for any kind of interaction between any kind of a government official with any e-governance application. And so that brings us to the end of the case studies that we currently have on interoperability and digital identities. Happy to look at any questions, if at all we have time at the end.
Thank you so much, Tejas. It seems that there are no questions for you right now, but if there are any questions pop up, we will record it, and please help us to answer the questions.
Yeah, and I'll stay online, so in case something comes up, happy to answer that too. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much. And then our last agenda would be the digital trust development, and let's welcome Clement Xie, the Senior Manager of ITRI. Welcome to Clement.
Hi, hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Did I share my presentation, or you will be sharing it?
You can share the slide.
Okay, no problem. Just wait for me for a couple minutes. Okay. Okay. Okay, I hope everybody can see my screen. Yes?
Yes,
okay,
you're all good.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I will be the last presenter for today. And in the beginning and also the ending, I probably will using a Chinese, probably give some type of some brief description why we have this seminar today, and why I think it's important. Okay, APKIC actually, especially thanks to Karen to hosting this event, and actually we will to share some of the information, especially the Tolis and Vincent bring the EU's idea eIDAS, actual eIDAS regulation and the mutual recognition to Taiwan. And also thanks to Japan and the Indian sharing the case. And I also will be sharing Taiwan's case in today's presentation. Okay, the following actually is in Chinese. So 谢谢大家哈，因为今天这个会议事实上最主要是想把欧盟 eIDAS 的一些比较在互通以及身份识别相关技术的部分介绍给大家哈，所以这一次事实上真的是很开心，欧盟那边还有日本跟印度能够分享他们的部分。那等一下我会大概先让大家知道这个部分。所以为什么今天在整个全球的一个世界里面，互通性这件事很重要。那互通性一定会是从身份识别跟电子签章做起。这就是为什么今天整个会议的一个主题的部分。好，那再来我会回到英文。Okay, I will start my presentation today. My presentation today actually is a research paper for the Asian PKI Consortium. Okay, the title is about the digital trust development. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So today's agenda, I will be give a brief introduction about what is digital trust and how does the international development about digital trust, and also some of the key findings and the future direction about digital trust. Then I will do a Taiwan's case sharing, similar to the Japan's case and to Indian case. Okay, because in Taiwan, we are not like them. They have more experience. Also, have more, especially try to collaboration with the EU about how to do the interoperability for the e-signature. So we are in more beginning of the stage right now. So I will be sharing the Taiwan's case assessment for today. Okay, what's a digital trust? Because we are living in a digital world, so the digital trust basically will be the foundation of the digital economic. Okay, so also digital trust, according to the World Bank, is a framework actually for a country try to adopt whatever their digital economy try to reform. And so simply say, if you are using the EU, European Union, for example, so EU actually adopt the digital trust actually into a cybersecurity and also digital service, especially the digital service will be the eIDAS regulations. Okay, so why the digital trust is important? Because in last 3 years, all the cloud computing, edge computing, AI, 5G, it's advanced very quickly. So in same time, so the data usage, it's processing more of that before. So this is also require the data governance we are looking at. So because more data is processing, so the data security, the data governance, privacy issue, the technology, how to trust the AI or the machine learning, or try to be providing our better digital service, it's important. So in the general, the digital trust is more of the conceptual or ideas to see how confidence actually the people were using the digital service. Okay, so according to World Economic Framework, WEF actually have a published report called Earning the Digital Trust, the decision for the trustworthy technology in the 2020. And actually this paper aimed to promote a digital trust framework for a better digital service. So there are 3 basic principles. Okay, the digital trust, like I say, the people need to trust about whatever digital service they are be using. So the 3 principles will be, it should be inclusive, ethical, and responsible use. So in the same time, that's mean not everybody can use it. But however, it should be basic on ethical, responsible use. Second, of course, since it's a digital service, so the security and the reliability is important. And finally, the accountability and the oversight is also important. That means the government should be watch over how does the digital trust principle, this principle is used in this country. So this will be the important. Okay. So the main principle, okay, the WEF proposed. However, this should be mapping to the standards what we know you'll be using into each country. So in the inclusive and ethical responsibility, for example, right now we all understand AI is take over our life. So in Microsoft, there will be for example, will be having a responsible AI standard. Okay, in the UN, you need to think about in the inclusive side is you need to think about the right of the person and the disability also have the same right to using the digital service. Okay, so in the inclusive ethical response use is more on the regulation or principle or policy side. Okay, then come to the security and reliability. It's more of a cybersecurity. How reliable is our digital service? So, for example, in the reliability, the Google Cloud Architecture Framework or the Microsoft Azure architecture framework, it's try to providing the reliability of the digital service we are using. At the same time, we'll need to consider about cybersecurity. So the NIST or the ISO or COBIT, the standard will be important to try to adopt the cybersecurity. Finally, the accountability and oversight is about whatever requirement we need to adopt in each country to see how does the actual benchmark we will be meet. For example, in the third one, the payment card industry the data security standard, also called PCI DSS. Most in the financial industry will understand you need to follow this standard to make sure so all the credit card transaction will be meet in the same standard. Okay, so this is a principle of it. But however, count down to each international development, it need to require, okay, they have a, depending on each country, like I say, the digital trust in each country will be based on the different standards. But to here, we are try to focus on two things. First, it's the identity, because second, it's about e-signature, because the identity and the e-signature in the eIDAS, the e-signature also is in the digital trust service provider as the Tolis is giving the presentation about, because this two will be the digital infrastructure for most of the foundation. So in EU, of course, eIDAS probably we are have two presentation today talking about we have a complete digital identity and the e-signature. So basically, it's a reference for most international adoption. It's something also Taiwan is look up for the eIDAS standard for as our benchmark. In US, there's no identity regulation, but however, the digital trust is more of in the commerce side. Okay, they are trying to regulate using the e-signature for better trading efficiencies. In Australia, Australia is also a good, very good example country, actually very dedicated in the digital service, especially on the trust side. So Australia had a trust digital identity framework, also have provide a digital identity called MyGovID. So in Australia, citizen can using the MyGovID actually for a lot of their service. In Japan, they already have giving a presentation today. They are trying to implementing a digital service for the international mutual recognition. So they are now trying to adopt testing between with EU for the MRA in the e-signature. Okay, in Korea, they are building a certificate-based PKI infrastructure, and they also have providing a fair digital environment and providing e-signature usage, because in the past 2 years, Korean actually have tried to promoting the e-signature service provider. So e-signature will be using in the Korea digital service pretty much. And in Singapore, it's more of government-based, because we know Singapore is a pretty kind of small country. So they have a centralizing government digital identity called SIMPASS, and so all the government to business data exchange can using a SIMPASS for both the enterprise and also for the citizen to use. So it will be interesting to see, what each country around the world, how to try to implement digital trust in their own country. Okay. So since we are talking about EU eIDAS, it's very important. But however, I think in the right-hand side picture, most people think about eIDAS. It's about 6 different type of service. Actually, I think it's a common misunderstanding about eIDAS. Actually, the eIDAS it's combining with 2 parts. Okay. First, it's a digital identity called eID. Okay, so that's for the cross-border electronic for the cross-border to use. And second part is the trust service. The trust service is combining 5 types of different type of trust service. So this including the e-signature, e-timestamp, web authentication certificate, e-seal, and the e-delivery. So that's why I say digital trust in the infrastructure level. These are 2 most important things we need to think about how to adapt in our country or in our environment. First, it's identity. Second, is about e-signature trust service. So the eIDAS regulate, especially see as EU as a whole market from legal side, legal framework. So they are trying to establish a trust framework and the standardization, try to help all the EU members can do the cross-border in the digital market. So I think that's why we are think about eIDAS, what is successful, and also it's a very good framework for most countries try to look up. Okay. Okay. So we are talking. So after looking at the eIDAS, now we are looking at this 2 things. First, it's about identification. Okay. World Bank actually have a good principle for the identity system. Okay. I'm not going too much detail about it, but it's very similar to the digital trust. They think in the World Bank, they think identification, you need to be inclusion. They have a 3 main principle. It should be inclusion, and it should be well designed, and it should be well be governance. Okay, so these are some it pretty match up to the digital trust same 3 principle. Okay, so this is just for most people's reference. Okay, also when we're talking about identification, most people will think about ISO 29115 entity authentication. I also will not go to too much detail about the ISO 29115, but however, I need to point out in the ISO 29115 entity authentication framework, all the identity, management, including 3 stages. First, it's enrollment phase. We need to make sure, when you transferring your physical identity into a digital identity, there's a phase called enrollment phase. You need to make sure who will be the right person to using this digital identity. Okay. Second is a potential management phase. This is the phase say, okay, once I'm sure who will be the actual or physical person using this identity. So I need to provide a potential for the authentication. Okay, so potential will be the actual device or authenticator for you to authenticate to try to compare with. Okay, and finally it's an entity authentication phase. So this is actual phase. We are taking the potential to make sure the right person is using this potential to perform the actual digital service. So this will be the whole overall for the ISO 20011 entity authentication. And so this also, I think Otis mentioned also the Daniel, okay, of TCIC give a good framework. So since we are not taking EU eIDAS framework as a compare, so when we talk about interoperability, this is probably the first framework we will take good look at it. And on the left hand side, basically we can it's called the digital actually assessment. Okay, so each country actually they can review whatever digital trust in the 3 different pillars or 3 different dimensions in the technical standard, legal provision, supervision and auditing, and finally on the trust context. Okay, and on the right hand side we have an eIDAS audit framework. That means whoever will be becoming the trust service in the EU or under the eIDAS framework, they need to go over the auditing framework. They need to to be assessed to make sure they are providing exactly the digital trust service they are should be providing. So I think Daniel already gave a good very detailed introduction about this eIDAS audit framework. Okay, so this also why we have the Tolis and Daniel give out all the principle detail about these 2 graphs. Okay, so the key finding actually, well, when we look at on the very top level about how does the World Economic Framework looking at digital trust. So the first, of course, the digital trust will be requiring the identity and the e-signature to be as the foundation, okay, for the digital service. And we also see eIDAS actually providing a very basic principle about a digital trust in as overview. And currently, the digital identity actually will follow the ISO 29115 standard. But NIST actually, we are not mentioning it today, is NIST actually have 800-3 actually is newer standard, especially talking about how does the federation system should be working. This also probably will not mention it today, but whoever should be considered more of if you have a different a lot of identity system provider in your country. So so NIST 800-3 will be a good reference for it. And finally, I think currently in Taiwan, all the most of Asian countries actually are looking at MRA for the cross-border digital service. So Japan is working with EU for some time right now, and India and it's also trying to catch up, and also they are having the digital service try to promoting right now. So this will be some key finding. Okay, and finally, I think I will have. Oops, sorry. Okay. somehow I think I lost my sharing. Okay. So finally, I think I will give about 5 more minutes about Taiwan's case. And as I say, Taiwan actually will look up with the eIDAS standard. We are trying to adapt our trust service provider. So it will probably take us about 2 or 3 years to promoting the e-signature industry. Also bring this digital service to try to adopt eIDAS digital trust service provider idea or qualified trust service provider concept into Taiwan. Okay, this is how we're doing it. Okay, so here is just a quick brief introduction about Taiwan's e-signature. Okay, in Taiwan, e-signature actually it's a very it's unique regulation because we only focus about e-signature act right now, and this require the e-signature and how does the digital certificate will be using in Taiwan. Okay, so right now we are renewing the digital service right now. So this is just give a background to tell you about how does our Taiwan e-signature compare to eIDAS in EU. It's different because unlike eIDAS have a whole framework. In Taiwan, we only consider the e-signature just a single regulation. Okay, and we have no actual specific regulation about identity. Okay, but however, under the regulation of the certificate process, actually we can providing the ID certification for the digital service. So it's kind of unique regulation actually for the Taiwan environment. Okay. Oh, sorry, did I missing my sharing again? Sorry. Okay. So so last year, actually, we are to doing the Taiwan Electronic Signature Act. Actually, we are trying to do the regulation revision, and this is the purpose of this revision of the regulation is try to match up with the eIDAS regulation. Okay, so in the eIDAS, e-signature have a simple electronic signature and advanced electronic signature and the qualified electronic signature. So in our new electronic act, in we are I think it's going to the paramount right now in Taiwan. We are trying to define the electronic signature will be similar to the AES compared to the eIDAS regulation. And we are trying to compare digital signature. It's similar to the qualified electronic signature. So this will have a same legal effect. So this it will be the first step to make sure Taiwan have a same legal effect as the EU. So this will help us to promote our interoperability with other countries because we need to have the same kind of benchmark at least on the regulation side. Okay, so as I saying, so because we are taking eIDAS as a benchmark, we are try to compare to Taiwan. So as the talk is already introduced, so basically each country will need to do an initial assessment about how they are meeting all these requirements compared to the eIDAS. Okay, so for the quick initial assessment, actually Taiwan already examined the 4 pillars of the trust scheme. Okay, so in the technical side, basically Taiwan already adopt various ETSI standard for the trust service. So in the ETS side, we have a PADES, SADS. So all the standard actually can be compiled in the Taiwan. Okay, so in the legal provision, like I say in the previous slide, Taiwan already have e-signature act and related regulation. But however, we still need to meet the eIDAS, QES, AES, and SES legal effect more closely. So this will be done by the Electronic Signature Act. Legal revision should be completed in this year. And in the third level, we are looking at the supervision and the auditing. Okay, Taiwan, we have a lot of good IT service. So we already have a qualified trust service as it's more of a certificate service provider. They need to register in Taiwan. So in the regulation side, we already do that. And also on the security, ISO 27001. So the security system management need to require for the QTSP. We also have that in the regulation. But however, we are missing the CAB, the conformity assessment body. This is why Daniel is already giving a presentation about a CAB, because if Taiwan actually need to have a trust service provider, if we want to compare to the to try to have the interoperability at the level of with the EU or other country, we need to make sure our trust service provider have the same conformity assessment. That means we need to have the same third-party certificate or auditing institution to make sure our trust service provider is performing at the same level as the other country need to require. Okay. And finally, we have a QTSP. We already have a X50 PKI scheme. So this is already, but however, we don't have a scheme operator who will be trying to perform the interoperability with other country. Okay. And so this will be our working plan. Actually, try to do with next 2 years. Try to establish the CAB. Also, trying to establish the scheme owner for the trust of the trust list of the trust list, so we can to perform the interoperability with other countries. Okay, so this is the Taiwan's plan or roadmap milestone. Try to map to the eIDAS framework. So yep, this is my presentation, and thank you for all your listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Clement. And on YouTube channel right now, there are no questions for you. So this is the end of all speakers session. The last but not the least, we still need to invite the co-chair of Business Application Working Group of APKIC, Vijay Kumar, to give us closing remarks. Vijay is the chair of Technology and Standards Working Group of Asia PKI Consortium, and also co-chairs Business Application Working Group. And let's welcome Vijay.
Thank you, Cindy. Eldrigu namaskara. I think we had a very long webinar today, but very successful topics spoken by all the eminent speakers. Just to wrap up over next few minutes, let me quickly get into a couple of important items. Let me also cover on behalf of my co-chair, Ms. Karen Chang. So Asia PK Consortium today is a very growing organization. If you see, we have almost 12 member countries, and we are expanding as much as possible. The main agenda of the consortium is to bring interoperability, and that's where you can see the arrow showing in the slide, talking about securing electronic transactions with mutual recognition. So on these lines, this webinar was conducted today, but to give a very quick update over next couple of minutes, the inter-country mutual recognition of electronic signatures and the electronic documents is a very important subject today. So the key pillars what our consortium identifies are here. There are 5 important aspects before we reach the mutual recognitions. One is the legislation in the country. Second is availability of infrastructure and the service providers in the country. Third is awareness and adoption, the users over there. And fourth is compliance benchmarking. Fifth is interoperable framework. So once we achieve these pillars in a particular country, then we can easily move towards mutual recognition. And if you see on the legislation side, most of the countries have enacted the legislation. So this is the data as available in UN website. So most of the countries has the legislation. I think the remaining pillars, what I spoke in the previous slide, are very important to make the progress. Today, India, under the recent G20 presidency, under the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it mentioned it is necessary to go borderless in digital transactions so that the people, the business, and the trade can happen easily between the countries. The transactions made via digital public infrastructure should also be recognizable by another country. Like in India, there is a lot of adoption of digital public infrastructure like payments, the digital identity, the educational documents. So there would be huge advantage when we have mutual recognition with other countries. So there is a lot of active progress happening. Eminent speakers today spoke about some of these subjects. India under G20 umbrella proposed a draft framework to move towards mutual recognition. We also spoke about India, EU, Japan pilot, which has made substantial progress. There is also a conversation between India and EU on the lines of trade and economy, how interoperability of digital transactions will be helpful. India is also working on adoption of HC standards in India. There is an MOU between our national standards body, Bureau of Indian Standards, and it is actively working on adoption of important standards. And Asia PK Consortium has been working towards facilitating these discussions. So the way forward is for countries to come together, the industry bodies to come together, and then work towards the mutual recognition. So on these lines, digital trust interoperability, the APKIC seminar was held today. I want to thank all the speakers over there, especially European Commission, Mr. Tollis, Mr. Vincent. I think wonderful coverage on the e-signature models, the digital wallet. Then Daniel covered on the conformity assessments, very good coverage on how the CAP functions and what are the important HC standards, the role of it. Then Professor Tezuka covered importantly on the mutual recognition program, what is going on between India, EU, and Japan, as well as the G7 agenda, how to bring this to action. Also, Tejas Lagat, he spoke about mobile PKI-based digital identity and several use cases like Denmark and the important one, the last one was Thailand. So very important use cases were covered in this particular subject. Finally, Clement, thanks for the report. You presented the report on digital trust interoperability, a huge work for the consortium. I think it's in a very good shape now. You walked us through that, and thank you very much. So thanks to all the speakers who joined us across the time zones. Taiwan, it is late evening now. Thanks definitely from Europe. You made it this program successful. Thank you very much. This certainly helps as a stepping stone to move towards digital trust interoperability. Thanks to all the participants who joined us in large numbers through various online channels. Without you, this wouldn't have been successful. Thanks to all the consortium members for actively participating and spreading out this seminar and on this important topic. And thanks to Business Application Working Group team, my co-chair, Ms. Karen, for taking this lead and conceptualizing this webinar to happen successfully. And last but not the least, thanks Cindy, Hank, everyone. You have been of a lot of support for conducting this seminar. Thank you very much. And with that, I conclude this remarks. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Vijay. Thank you for the wrap-ups. And once again, we've noticed that there are some questions that haven't been answered by the speakers. The questions will be recorded and answered and shared afterwards to all the registered attendees. And lastly, appreciation to all the speakers again, wonderful and very informative sharing of the trends in the industry. And this is the end of the event. Thank you all for your participation, and we will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.